Good morning, evening, or night. Wherever you are, welcome to WHAM today. Take a deep breath. Clear your mind, and let's drift through the whispers of today's world, one quiet thought at a time. As we wrap up Tuesday, 24th June 2025, let's see what stories are unfolding around us. China's Premier Li Qiang urged the separation of trade from political and security concerns at the World Economic Forum's summer Davos. To counter uncertainties surrounding the US dollar, China is furthering the internationalization of the yuan through expanded investment avenues and digital infrastructure development. Shipping containers from China are surging into the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach in California as companies try to avoid a forthcoming tariff deadline. Anjoy Foods Group, China's leading frozen hot pot ingredient producer, intends to broaden its reach into European and Southeast Asian markets after its Hong Kong listing. China accounted for most of the new hydropower capacity added in Asia in 2024, dominating global development. Apple has started participating in China's subsidy program, providing discounts on devices in Beijing and Shanghai to compete with local brands. Vitasoy International Holdings saw its full-year net profit double, driven by significant demand in mainland China. Reflecting a focus on export growth, Bide, the world's largest EV manufacturer, has acquired 2 new car-carrying ships. Despite rumors, Starbucks has denied any potential full sale of its China business, reaffirming its commitment to the market. Ping An has amassed a Hokani $180 stake in China banks, leveraging dividend investment strategies. Zhou Jiayi, formerly the Vice Minister of Finance, has been appointed as the President of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, IRB. China has criticized the EU for barring Chinese firms from public tenders for medical devices. Chinese companies are contributing to a $13 billion surge in convertible bonds across Asia. To enhance their existing free trade agreement, FTA, South Korea and China have conducted the 12th round of follow-up negotiations. Saudi Arabia's economic landscape is marked by robust growth and strategic diversification. The Saudi Arabian stock market saw a positive close, with the Tadawul All-Share Index increasing by 2.37%. Gustat reported a notable 5.3% surge in non-oil activities for 2024. The country is actively attracting investments with a second set of standard incentives for the industrial sector. The Public Investment Fund, PIF, Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund, has introduced a commercial paper program to diversify its funding sources through note issuance. Ajun Sukuk offering successfully raised $628 million. Alin Lanomo Market Equity Fund secured approval for a public offering from the Saudi Arabian regulator. Saudi tech firm Ayada intends to reapply for an IPO following the expiration of its previous approval, while Jadwa, a Saudi PE firm, is planning a $104 million raise for Medias deals. JD.com JD is expanding its presence by introducing Joy Express operations into Saudi Arabia. The Saudi PIF-backed Selfridges received the green light for a private members club. Culturally, the Michelin Guide will extend its culinary coverage to Saudi Arabia. Bayfront has been recognized as Saudi Arabia's first Blue Flag Beach Award winner. An expert has lauded a Saudi school evaluation framework as setting a new global standard. On the international front, Saudi Arabia acknowledged the U.S. President's announcement of a regional ceasefire agreement. Saudi Arabia and the UK have established a one-stop airport security agreement. In contrast, SLB forecasts flat Q2 revenues and profit due to reduced activity in Saudi Arabia. Amundium Global Head is underweight on Saudi debt due to volatility. A former French footballer voiced his disappointment regarding a player's move to Saudi Arabia, describing it as depressing. India is bracing for a flurry of economic and financial activity, with the Reserve Bank of India, RBI, preparing to execute a liquidity withdrawal operation that could push up Indian bond yields. Concurrently, GIFT Nifty is signaling a positive start for the Indian benchmark index, trading around 25,175, which represents a premium of approximately 103 points. Market analysts such as Ankush Baya, Radha Venkatraman, TradeBrains Portal, and MarketSmith India have released their stock picks for June 25th, and Sumit Bagadia is recommending CL Products, India, SBFC Finance, LT Foods, Vishal Megamart, and Delhivery as buy. The Horizon Infra Solutions IPO is set to be listed on June 25th, although market watchers are predicting a relatively quiet debut on both the BSE and NSE. High net worth individuals are showing increased interest in BBB-rated debt via online platforms, attracted by the potential for high yields despite the elevated credit risks involved. Investors are also closely watching HDB Financial's planned $1.40 billion IPO, which comes at a time of headwinds for Indian IPO performance. NSE Ashish Chauhan is emphasizing India's potential to leverage its service and experience sectors to fuel economic expansion. Larsen & Toubro has listed India's first ESG bonds worth 500 crore on the NSE. Timex Group intends to divest a 15% stake in its India operation through an offer for sale, FS, at Rs. 175 per share. The country is also planning its first comprehensive household income survey in 2026. In space endeavors, Shubhanshu Shukla of India is slated to participate in SpaceX's Axiom Mission 4, which will mark the nation's inaugural access to the International Space Station, ISS. On the diplomatic front, the Defense Secretary is heading an Indian delegation to Johannesburg, South Africa, to attend the 9th Joint Defense Committee meeting. Meanwhile, Slavoj Uznanski-Wisniewski of Poland is also scheduled to participate in SpaceX's Axiom Mission 4, signifying Poland's first venture to the International Space Station, ISS. Similarly, Tibor Kapu of Hungary will be joining SpaceX's Axiom Mission 4, marking Hungary's debut on the International Space Station, ISS. Turning to South Africa, the city of Johannesburg is set to host the 9th Joint Defense Committee meeting, where the Defense Secretary will lead an Indian delegation. Following a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, brokered by President Donald Trump, global markets reacted strongly. The S&P 500, Dow Jones Industrial Average, and Nasdaq Composite all saw gains. In India, the Nifty 50 index neared 25,200, boosted by Reliance Industries and HDFC Bank as investor confidence grew. Analysts indicate the Nifty 50 is currently consolidating. Oil prices dropped sharply, influencing company costs and inflation forecasts. Gold futures on MEX decreased by over 2,600 per 10 grams. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell reiterated that the Fed's dedication to managing inflation. Bitcoin also saw an increase in value. However, Israel accused Iran of violating the ceasefire agreement. This accusation highlights the instability of the truce. The heightened tensions have prompted many maritime insurance providers to halt Mideast coverage for ships connected to the US, Israel, or the UK. Key stocks to monitor include Vedanta, Vodafone Idea, RRTC, and PTC Industries amid the ongoing conflict. The Australian and New Zealand dollars experienced a recovery as markets anticipated potential rate cuts. Meanwhile, gold prices rose, supported by a weakening US dollar enhancing its attractiveness to international investors. Turning to Hong Kong, stocks climbed to a 3-month peak, fueled by expectations of interest rate reductions and projected capital inflows. A significant metric pointed to reduced demand for the US dollar within the vast $7.50 trillion foreign exchange arena. Additionally, Vanguard suggested that ETFs demonstrate greater resilience than individual stocks during periods of market instability. In Australia, shares initially held steady as gains in the banking sector balanced losses in mining, awaiting inflation data. However, the market later rallied on unconfirmed reports of a ceasefire agreement between Iran and Israel. Monthly inflation cooled down, strengthening expectations for a rate cut in July. Furthermore, instances of share sales fraud in Australia have surged 7-fold over the past 4 years. Switching focus to the United States, a new language policy is heightening the importance of English proficiency among truck drivers. Strikes in Iran have contributed to disruptions in global travel and flight cancellation. Foreign policy analysts suggest that adversaries, including China and Russia, could potentially benefit from the Voice of America shutdown. Prominent scholars at the summer Davos in China debated which nation, the US or China, is better positioned to advance technological progress. Huawei is encountering obstacles in its efforts to advance to the 5-nanometer chip manufacturing process due to ongoing sanctions. South Korea's financial markets are vibrant, with the KOSPI reaching a 45-month high and equity trading exceeding 40 trillion won. Automakers are driving share value increases, and asset managers are launching new ETFs. The country is formulating an ETF roadmap and examining exchange fees. To meet climate objectives, South Korea will introduce carbon emission futures, although the central bank advises caution regarding stablecoins. Improved consumer sentiment might delay a rate cut, and enhanced market monitoring is in place due to Middle East tensions. Messi has reaffirmed South Korea's emerging market status, citing slow progress in foreign exchange reforms. South Korea is also prioritizing technological advancement and international partnerships. AI innovation is viewed as key for economic recovery. The United States and South Korea are bolstering shipbuilding collaboration via an education exchange. CLIMB has expanded into South Korea, and South Korean builders are concentrating on redevelopment projects amid declining public orders. Korea Blockchain Week 2025 has announced Donald Trump Jr. as a keynote speaker. Iran's ongoing tensions with Israel significantly impact global markets and political discussions. Despite fears of Iran potentially blocking the Strait of Hormuz in response to Israeli and U.S. activities, Chinese business confidence in the area remains relatively strong. Market sentiment improved with hopes of an Iran-Israel ceasefire, boosting the stocks Europe 600 and pushing share values to record highs, while simultaneously causing a drop in oil prices. A widely held oil fund suffered substantial losses, mirroring market responses to these events. In related news, President Donald Trump publicly criticized Republican Rep. Thomas Massie for proposing a war powers resolution designed to restrict U.S. military engagement with Iran. Europe's commitment to NATO remains strong, according to the alliance chief, despite ongoing debates about defense spending. The automotive sector in Europe is seeing an upswing, driven primarily by increased consumer interest in EVs and plug-in hybrids. Simultaneously, European financial institutions are bracing for potential setbacks in profitability, as highlighted by an S&P trade war stress test. The European stock market, after initially rallying to one-week highs on news of a Middle East ceasefire, is now facing renewed volatility due to continuing geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, particularly impacting oil and defense stocks. In other news, a considerable segment of the population approximately 1 in 5 Europeans, is consistently subjected to harmful levels of traffic noise. Canada's mining sector is being eyed as a potential contributor to NATO's financial needs, with Mark Carney estimating a possible $110 billion contribution. The country's inflation rate remained stable at 1.7% in May, mirroring the rate recorded in April. Meanwhile, the Canadian stock market experienced gains, with the S&P TSX Composite Index increasing by 0.41%, prompting market watchers to identify key factors influencing tobacco stocks in the immediate future. Discussions surrounding international trade are intensifying, particularly concerning former U.S. President Trump's proposed tariffs, which are a central issue in negotiations with both Canada and the European Union. The Supreme Court has opted not to accelerate a legal challenge against these tariffs, indicating a potentially protracted legal battle. South Africa's currency saw fluctuations, first rising on ceasefire news and then on economic data hopes. Platinum miners are also attracting investors as platinum prices climb. Small business is also in focus, with township car mechanics organizing for growth. Next week, Johannesburg will host expos on construction, infrastructure, and water. Asian markets surged in response to ceasefire talks between Israel and Iran, talks reportedly facilitated by Donald Trump. This positive trend was reinforced by a major deal involving Rio Tinto. JPMorgan anticipates a 15-20% rise in Asian technology stocks, driven by advancements in artificial intelligence. Chinese companies are spearheading a $13 billion boom in Asian convertible bonds, seeking more affordable financing amid global economic uncertainties. WHAM Asset Management predicts a heightened focus on Asian markets in the third quarter of 2025, signaling continued investor confidence. Japan's financial sector is buzzing with activity. Davos Securities Group intends to launch a $690 real estate fund. This move aims to capitalize on the country's thriving property market. Regulators are weighing the reclassification of cryptocurrency as securities. This could potentially lead to the introduction of cryptocurrency-linked exchange-traded funds, ETFs. SBI Shinsei Bank is preparing to fully repay its remaining public funds. Meanwhile, the Financial Services Agency, FSA, is likely to elevate Yutaka Ito to commissioner. Amidst regional instability, Japanese megabanks are reportedly mulling staff evacuations from the Middle East. JPMorgan Chase is already restricting travel to the region. Germany's economic activity shows some positive signs alongside challenges. The DAX index rose, suggesting renewed business confidence. In contrast, Autodoc delayed its initial public offering, indicating potential market hesitations. Energiekonto AG successfully divested a German wind park project to private investors. Shifting to defense, Germany is backing an increase in NATO's defense spending target, a decision that could have implications for its national budget. Asia. Cambodia alleges that Thailand is exacerbating border tensions with new land crossing restrictions, which are harming tourism. China depends on raw materials from Myanmar for its rare earth processing, despite its existing dominance in the sector. Pakistan and Saudi Arabia aim to boost parliamentary cooperation during the Saudi Shura Council visit to Pakistan. Investor confidence in Pakistan's stock market has surged after reports of a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. Somalia has inaugurated its first national stock exchange to formalize its economy. Qatar and the United States are increasing their presence in the Asia-Pacific aviation market, highlighted by Virgin Australia's return to the ASICs, indicating new investment, innovation, and tourism. New Zealand's fintech firm Xero is evaluating acquiring Melio in a $215 billion transaction. Indonesia is expected to maintain a manageable budget deficit, according to Finance Minister Srimulyani Indrawati. Europe. Switzerland sees continued strong demand for rental apartments, with residents of Graubünden identified as the most comfortable. Central Switzerland's lakes boast excellent water quality, ideal for swimming. The Russian stock market, MOEX, released financial sector share prices at 13.0 MSK on June 24, 2025. Middle East and Africa. Oman's sovereign fund announced a $4.10 billion profit, citing a disciplined and forward-looking investment approach. Americas. Salvadoran journalist Mario Guevara, detained in Georgia, is being held by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which the Committee to Protect Journalists views as an alarming precedent. A Brazilian family is contemplating investing $1 billion in property deals in the United States. Morocco will host a Brazil investment forum. Other. Serena Williams discussed her tennis career, motherhood, and investments in change in an interview in Cannes, France. And that's a wrap for today's news, because even headlines need a nap. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the noise fade as you find your quiet. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you next time on WHAM Today.